Welcome back to Old Coin Adventures. Before you spend another Jefferson Nickel, take a few seconds and look at this one. Because if you have a 1985 Jefferson Nickel in your collection, your pocket change, or even an old coin jar, there are a few details you should know before deciding that it's only worth 5 cents. And the good news is, you don't need to be a professional coin collector to spot them. In this video, I'll show you exactly what to look for, what makes certain Jefferson Nickels more desirable to collectors, and which details can make a surprising difference in value. But there's one important thing. Not every 1985 nickel is valuable. So I'll help you separate the ordinary ones from the coins that deserve a much closer look. And stay until the end, because we'll reveal what a valuable example can actually be worth, how much one has sold for at auction, and where you can have your coin checked or sell it if you think you've found something special. So before you put that Jefferson Nickel back in your pocket, let's see if yours deserves a second look. Now let's start with the coin itself. The 1985 Jefferson Nickel was made during a period when millions of nickels were being produced for everyday circulation. And that's exactly why this coin can be easy to overlook. You might see one and think, it's just a nickel. But collectors don't always look at a coin the way we do. They look for the details, the condition, the strike, the surfaces, and most importantly, anything unusual that shouldn't be there. So let's begin with the first thing you should check, the date. Look closely at the numbers 1, 9, 8, and 5. Make sure the date is clear and hasn't been damaged, altered, or strangely struck. A normal-looking date by itself doesn't make the coin rare. And this is important. You should never assume that every old nickel is automatically valuable. The real value comes from what makes that particular coin different. Now turn your attention to the mint mark. Look around the area near Monticello and check carefully for the mint designation. Depending on the example you're examining, the mint mark can help identify where the coin was produced. But again, the mint mark alone doesn't automatically mean you're holding a fortune. This is where many people make a mistake. They find a particular date or mint mark online, see a huge price, and immediately assume their coin is worth the same amount. That's not how coin values work. Condition matters. And on a Jefferson Nickel, condition can make a big difference. So now let's talk about the surfaces. Take a close look at Jefferson's portrait. Check his cheek. Check the hair. Check the fields around the portrait. Are there lots of scratches? Heavy marks? Dull areas? Or does the coin still have sharp detail and attractive surfaces? The cleaner and stronger the coin looks, the more interesting it can become to collectors. But there's another area that deserves even more attention. Monticello. Look at the building on the reverse. Now focus on the steps. This is one of the areas Jefferson Nickel collectors pay very close attention to. But because strong, clearly defined steps can indicate a well-struck example. And collectors often use the term full steps when those details are especially complete. So don't just glance at the back of the coin. Actually zoom in. Look at the individual steps. Are they weak? Are they interrupted? Are there scratches running across them? Or can you clearly see strong, uninterrupted step details? That small area can tell you much more than simply looking at the date. And here's where this gets interesting. A coin that looks ordinary from a distance can look completely different under magnification. That's why I always recommend using a good light and a magnifying glass when checking older coins. You aren't looking for something imaginary. You're looking for something specific. A mint error, an unusual strike, a strong example, or a condition that separates the coin from the millions of ordinary pieces. Now let's talk about errors. This is where you need to be especially careful. A genuine mint error happens during the manufacturing process. It isn't simply damage that happened after the coin left the mint. That's a very important difference. A scratch isn't automatically an error. A dent isn't automatically an error. A bent coin isn't automatically rare. And damage from machines, coins rubbing together, or years of circulation can create strange-looking marks. So before you get excited, you need to know what you're actually looking at. Look around the lettering. Look around the date. Check the edges. Check both sides. And compare unusual features with a normal Jefferson Nickel. If something appears dramatically different, that's when you should investigate further. Because sometimes, the smallest detail is the detail that changes the entire story. And we're not finished yet. There is another reason condition matters so much. Imagine two identical 1985 Jefferson Nickels. Same date, same basic design, same denomination, but one has heavy circulation marks, while the other has sharp details, clean surfaces, and exceptional preservation. Collectors aren't necessarily going to value those two coins equally. And that's why you should never judge your nickel only by its age. A coin doesn't have to be extremely old to become collectible. Sometimes, it's the combination of condition, rarity, error, and collector demand that makes the difference. So now you know what to look for. But there's still one big question. How much could a genuinely valuable 1985 Jefferson Nickel actually be worth? And more importantly, how much has a real example actually sold for? That's where things get much more interesting. Because the number you're about to hear depends heavily on exactly what kind of 1985 nickel you're holding. So in part 2, we're going to talk about value. We'll look at what can make one example worth only a few cents, while another can attract serious collector interest. We'll also talk about auction sales, how to avoid confusing asking prices with real selling prices, where you can have your coin professionally checked, and where you can potentially sell it if your nickel turns out to be something special. So don't stop here, because now that you know what to look for, it's time to find out what your 1985 Jefferson Nickel could actually be worth. Now, let's get to the part you've been waiting for. How much can a 1985 Jefferson Nickel actually be worth? For a normal circulated example, we're generally talking about a coin that's still close to its 5-cent face value. But once you get into exceptional condition, especially coins with strong full-step details, the numbers can change dramatically. And we have real sales to prove it. One impressive example is a 1985 P. Jefferson Nickel graded MS67 full steps by PCGS. That coin sold for $4,000 in a documented eBay sale recorded by PCGS. That's $4,000 for a 5-cent coin. And PCGS currently lists an auction record of $4,880 for the 1985 PMS category, showing just how far an exceptional example can move away from ordinary face value. But here's the important part. That does not mean every 1985 Jefferson Nickel is worth thousands of dollars. The $4,000 example was an exceptionally high-grade full steps coin. Your circulated nickel may be worth only face value, while a strong uncirculated example can be worth considerably more depending on its grade and characteristics. For comparison, a documented 1985 DMS66 full steps Jefferson Nickel sold at heritage auctions for $161 in 2011. And this tells us something very important. The date alone doesn't create the value. The grade matters. The strike matters. The full step designation can matter. And genuine errors or varieties can change the picture completely. So if you have a 1985 Jefferson Nickel, don't look at it and immediately assume it's worth $4,000. Instead, ask yourself a much better question. Could my coin have the characteristics that made those valuable examples desirable? That's what you need to investigate. And if your nickel has unusually sharp details, strong Monticello steps, excellent surfaces, or a feature that looks like a genuine mint error, don't clean it and don't alter it. Keep it exactly as you found it. Take clear pictures, compare it with authenticated examples, and consider having it examined by a reputable coin dealer or professional grading service. Now, let's talk about where you can actually sell it. If your coin turns out to be an ordinary circulated nickel, there may not be much financial reason to sell it individually. But if you've discovered a high-grade full steps example, a recognized variety, or a properly authenticated mint error, then you have much better options. You can start with a reputable local coin dealer. For a potentially valuable coin, you can also consider professional grading and authentication before selling. And if the coin is valuable enough, an established coin auction house can put it in front of serious collectors who are actually looking for rare and high-grade Jefferson Nickels. But always remember, an online asking price is not proof of value. A real completed sale is much more meaningful. That's why the $4,000 sale we just discussed is important. It isn't simply a seller claiming that the coin is worth thousands. It's a documented sale recorded by PCGS. So now you know the difference between an ordinary 1985 Jefferson nickel and the kind of example that can attract serious money. Check the date. Check the mint mark. Study Jefferson's portrait. Turn the coin over and examine Monticello. Look closely at those steps. Inspect the surfaces. And if you see something unusual, don't ignore it. Because the real value isn't sitting on the date alone. It's hidden in the details. So, before you spend that 1985 Jefferson nickel for 5 cents, give it one final inspection. Because somewhere out there, an ordinary-looking nickel may have the exact characteristics that collectors are willing to pay serious money to own. And if yours turns out to be one of those special examples, now you know what to do next. Get it checked. Get it authenticated. Find the real market value. And then choose the right place to sell it.